Hello, thank you for watching. My name's Nashoni Harvey with Authors Aflame.
I'm going to answer the question, what is author polishing? First, I want to ask you, when is the last time that you've sat and looked at a book? I'm not kidding, just looked at it. And no, I don't mean, what is that stain on the page? I mean, this is my best friend's book and I've already got a coffee stain on it. Oh, my soul. That's not what I mean. I mean, have you looked at the pacing, the informational flow, the connection between the characters? And yes, this is important to look at. And I'm not talking about in your own manuscript. Maybe you haven't even written it all yet. Maybe you have. I'm not talking about in your manuscript, though. I'm talking about in other people's writings. This is where you're going to learn the most, is by looking for things in other people's manuscripts, in other books. Is there anything in this book that you're reading where the pacing slows down, even just a little bit? Is there a place where you feel that you were in full gear and all of a sudden it just comes to a full stop? Do you feel like the author is pushing the characters along, or on the other hand, just forcing them to draw out their story just to fill in the pages? It makes you feel you just want to slap the author then, you know? It's like, just get done with the story already. You want to skip those pages. It's just annoying. Anyway, these are things that a good developmental editor does. Author polishing is developmental editing on steroids. With author polishing, I'll sit you down. We'll go over a few rules. No drinking Pepsi while writing. You shouldn't drink Pepsi anyways. Not kidding. No typing with your eyes closed. Yeah, that's almost as bad as driving with your eyes closed. You know, things like that. Just kidding. Next, we'll establish a few things. What are your goals for the course? This is important. And the reason it's important is because your goals may be different than my goals. And I want to make sure that we're on the same page. You see, if we don't have the same goals, then you're not going to get out of the course what you want to get out of the course. This course needs to be individualized to what you want. This is very important. Author polishing is about what you want and what you need, not what I want. It's specialized to your needs. Now, we're going to look at it and we're going to say, what are your weaknesses and what are your strengths? Because I want to better be able to help you to work on your weaknesses, and I want to be able to take your strengths and build on them to make you stronger. Because when you have a firm foundation to work with, it makes your strengths stronger and it makes you a better writer. And when we know what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, we'll better be able to formulate a plan to make your goal for the course more durable and more strong. So your goal may ultimately change a little bit and come into better context. But finally, the good stuff. What is your goal for the book? You must have a clear set of goals defined for the book before you can begin. We're not going to get into all the goals here. I don't have the time, I'm sorry. But we're going to talk about what your climax will be. You have to have your climax established before you even start on the beginning of the book. Who will your author be? You, of course. What I meant to say is, who will your main character be? I'll be asking you to describe him or her. What will their physical characteristics be like? There's other things I'll ask you to describe as well. For instance, what is their past? What is their present? What does their future look like? And I know you won't know exactly what their future is going to look like because characters, they develop as they go. I mean, their future kind of changes and takes shape as it goes, kind of on its own. I mean, they almost become real people to you. They become your friends. I know it sounds kind of weird, but for those of you who've written already, you can testify that this is the truth. I mean, they develop almost on their own. You have no control over it. They develop as the story progresses. There's other things you should be able to tell me about your main character as well, though, before you even start writing the story. And we're not going to get into that here for time's sake. Who are your sub-characters? And I'll ask you some of the same questions about them because you should have just exactly the same information, just as much information about them as you do have about your main character. You know, Tolkien sat down and he had a whole book on each character, and almost a book, and what the things about the characters, their world, their characteristics, their past, their present, the things that went on around them, all these things. And this is what made his books so interesting, because he knew every single detail and everything about his characters before he even started writing his books. He couldn't have developed such fascinating stories without knowing all of these characters in detail and in depth like he did. You know what? Your sub-characters, why do you have to know all this information about them? I mean, they're not as important, right? But they are. Having a clear understanding of all your characters in the story is a very important story making tool. It's so important to storytelling. There are other things that we're going to get into in our first session, but I don't have time to go over those things now. Afterwards, after our whole first session is done, I'll assign you some homework. Homework! I know. Bummer, right? But how do you expect to learn if you don't utilize the tools that you learn in each session? You're probably chafing a bit. When do I begin to start writing? Oh, but you are. You are writing. You are beginning to write. You know what? This is a very important first step to the process. And we'll go through several other steps to begin writing your book. You have to go through the process correctly if you're going to write your book correctly. The most important part of author polishing, though, is the developmental editing on steroids part. Not only do I developmental edit your book for you while you're writing it, but I teach you why the script is marked the way it is, give you suggestions on how to fix it, and why it should be corrected that way, and I re-edit it when you're done. You know what? I don't just re-edit it one time. If you want to change it again, and again, and again, and I'll even say it again, and again, you know what? You have the right to do that. I'm not just going to say, oh, for this price, I am only going to edit your book twice. Author polishing comes with as many edits as you need me to do. You decide at the end that I need to change this paragraph and that paragraph, or I need to change this chapter or that chapter, feel free. You know what? I'm getting ready to send this to the publisher, but I decided that I need to change these chapters around and that's going to require an edit. You know what? Feel free. Just send it back to me. Not a problem. The editing for author polishing, though, which includes developmental editing, is a very deep editing. I'll not only edit it for grammar, spelling, and sentence structure, which isn't usually required in developmental editing. That's part of a different kind of editing altogether. But I'll look at the characterization, the plot, the structure of the story itself. I'll also edit your story's tension, genre, which is also, some people call it genre, theme, narration style, and more. You'll get to see your work take shape with the help of a teacher's hand before your very eyes. But you'll see yourself develop as well. This is why it's called author polishing. As I point out the problem areas in your writing, you'll learn how to avoid them. We'll also confront them head on in your training sessions over the phone. Your homework will be geared as well to help you further develop your strengths and correcting your weaknesses. Author polishing will teach you to look at your manuscript with a writer's heart, an editor's eye, a reader's emotion, and a publisher's discernment. You want to be able to look at all these four things, because these things are what's going to develop you as an author. Of course, the writer's heart, the editor's eye, because you know what? When you send your manuscript to an editor, you want to be able to let them not have to look at that manuscript as fully and completely as they would have to normally do. Reader's emotions, because you want to be able to speak to your reader on an emotional level. Publisher's discernment, because they're only looking for things that they can sell. They are only looking for things that they'll only buy things from you that will go on the market to the people that are going to read them. And you know what? If you can write things that the publishers will sell, then you're going to make it good. You know what? You'll be learning to look at the whole picture and find the holes. This is author polishing. This is a one-on-one endeavor, just you and me. I think we'll become fast friends, and I look forward to working with you on your author polishing.